nigga like Ye, you know what I'm saying? That's my guy. But I know people be headstrong, and y'all the same way. Y'all was dealing with old boy. He's super headstrong, but you keep pushing forward, you know what I'm saying? You make your own path, you do your own thing. And Holmes, he all home. You know what it is with me and you, bro.
Yeah, he stole enough.
Yeah, cause you know, yeah, you know what time it is.
He stole enough. He got it.
He can pay you with my money.
Yeah. It'll be our money.
Exactly.
It's our money. Yeah,
exactly. So,
Mal, not only did I not steal from you, you have never had anything worth me stealing from you. No matter how many new beginnings you start, and no matter how many of these new people you get around, some of us know you. That would be me. So please stop spreading these lies. You've never had anything for me to steal from. That's not the nature of this relationship. This is some sick role reversal shit going on. And I'm not mad at nobody else calling me a thief. But you can't call me no fucking thief. No, I will not have it. You've never pulled your own weight.
I know that's what pains him. Every time he pay for pussy, that's some of my money. Every single time he pay for pussy, that's some of my money.
Some of your pussy.
Every vacation, every vacation he take a chick on, that's some of my money he using. And that pains him. The most money he ever made in his life, he made sit next to me. That pains him. I know that pains him, but we had a beautiful thing. It worked.
I thought so. All built together, and I didn't think it was such a hard thing to say that the three of us built it together.
It pains him.
I didn't know that was such a difficult
All that Balenciaga
idea.
he's wearing, I'm paying for it. It pains him. It hurts. Every time he think he's fresh, he look in the mirror, I paid for it.
I can assure you, I did not buy these Lululemons with our corporate card. It was on my personal.
It's okay. You're my guy. Go ahead, swipe it. It's all good.
On the Lulus?
Yeah, it's all good.
The Lulus.
It pains him. Every
Half
single
these
time.
Lulus is yours?
Yeah. Every single time. You know what I'm saying? Every time you go to the strip club, you throw singles. Those is my faces on them singles. It pains him. It hurts.
It's like Usher Bucks.
Oh, it hurts. It has to hurt.
It's funny.
It hurts. But we had a beautiful thing.
Yeah. It was the greatest podcast of all time.
God. But again, it pains him because, you know, the notoriety and the cloud and the attention that he wanted as a solo artist. He attained that sitting next to two guys that he feels like has no resume. Who are these guys? They didn't put in the pain and the industry and go through the ringer like I did. So now that we got a 6, 7, 8 figure, whatever it was, we don't even know.
We don't know.
We didn't see the contract. It pains him. It hurts.
It's been a while since we've talked about Joe Budden's podcast. Since we talked about those two guys.
Porks.
And in fact, it's been a while since I've listened to either one of them, to be quite frank.
I stopped following Joe Beasy quite a while ago. And then I never really got on to Rory Mal's podcast.
If I'm looking at it as a listener, I personally have liked what I've heard from Rory and Mal's side of it more so than Joe's side of it.
You mean in terms of the conflict or just
no, the content. Just content as a whole. Just because I feel like of the two, and maybe I haven't listened to enough to definitively say this, but Rory and Mal's has seemed closer to what the old Joe Budden podcast was than Joe's new, Ice and Ish situation.
You know what's funny about his new setup with Ice, Ish, and Parks? Right. How do you hear what it is Rory and Mal were asking of Joe Budden and say, you know what? I'm going to work with that nigga. I'm going to work with him. Because he seems like an upstanding guy who would never double cross me or undermine my meaning to this production. Surely he sees me as an equal partner and, will work with me as such. How did that?
Now, I don't know if Ish has been a friend of Joe's for a while, but I'm pretty sure Ice has been. So I'm just going to go off the strength of Ice joined because obviously Joe was in a bad space. He wasn't going to do the podcast by himself. So Ice is looking at it more of a, look, we're friends. I'm gonna help you out, and then it just kind of became a thing. I'm assuming maybe Ish did the same thing, and they're just enjoying their time on there. Plus,
but there as this shit because neither one of these podcasts has been as popular as the actual Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mal on,
correct,
right? So as it continues to grow over there on Joe's side, you don't think they're ever going to ask for more? You think that they're happily content with whatever you're paying them, whatever their influence is now, whatever their level of decision making is now, and it'll always stay there?
No, I can't say that, but at the same time, at the very least, Ice and Ish were at least at the very beginning of their start, were given that expectation because they've seen what's happened with Rory and Mal. Whereas Rory and Mal went into this blind.
Why would you ever do that? How is that advantageous for you? Like I guess it's
who was Ice and Ish
different.
before
right,
this?
Sure, it's a little
situation.
different for Ice and Ish because they didn't even work in the industry. At least Mal and Rory can say that they have done things outside of their relationship with Joe Budden. If you Ish and Ice, you don't really have a whole leg up to be like, hey, yo, cut us off a piece. But they've been there for like, what, 2 years now?
Has it been 2 years now?
It's going on it.
Yeah.
At what point do you start asking for more? Or are you just going to live the rest of your life being an employee of the Joe Budden podcast?
Well, at the very least, let's say, so they're getting 100, 200,000 views per episode on YouTube alone. Mm-hmm. That public notoriety at least helps them in some sense. Because then on the side, they can make
them
things
is
happen.
grown men, bro. Them is not 25-year-olds. They probably got families and houses or apartments or whatever. Like, bro, I'm not trying to build. I want to make money. And you get into it. And that's what you argued with your last man's about. And I just expected that you wouldn't do that to me. So
that's what I was going to say. But that's literally the only explanation I can give you for joining a podcast when you see the very public spat that they're going through right now.
And I really don't get what why it's such a hard thing for him to say, that we built this thing together. Why it could only be the only acceptable response for him. Like literally, y'all broke up because you wouldn't admit or at least treat them as if y'all were 3 equal halves or 3 equal parts.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was over. You wanted to sun them and you wanted them to look at you and be like, oh, the only reason why we here is because of Pump It Up. Nigga, I wouldn't do that. If I was on the Joe Budden podcast today, I would not feel indebted to you over Pump It Up. My nigga, you are not that big of a star where you got to feel like you got to tell somebody that has been doing something with you that is more popular than anything you've done in the last 10 years. Honestly, from where you came from to where you dropped down to where you ended up again, I have more of an argument that we helped you get there. Because from Pump It Up to Joe Budden Podcast, it was a whole lot of nothing in there, partner.
So I'm going to posit this. I am not necessarily on Joe Budden's side, but it was definitely more than Pump It Up. That did from Joe Budden's side.
Was it?
Everyday Struggle. I started watching Joe Budden's podcast because of Joe Budden being on Everyday Struggle. I watched Everyday Struggle before I started getting into that portion of it.
Yeah,
But what kept me there is largely Mal and Rory.
You know why I can't give that to you? Even if I'm going to say that Everyday Struggle increased Joe's platform so much that he could carry Rory and Mal, which I don't agree with. But even if it did, then y'all owe that to Complex. Not fucking Joe Budden. Joe Budden didn't create that platform. He didn't make that show. It's still going on without him. It's off now. It's off now. But it still went on without him. So, like, if you really want to say that, then okay, maybe Rory and Mal owe Complex. But it wasn't. But
Everyday Struggle
Joe
didn't do the numbers once Joe left. And again,
what
I'm
did
not.
Everyday Struggle really do for Joe though? Like, what did that do? Joe wasn't out here getting any deals off of Everyday Struggle. He got that from building his podcast platform. I'm not saying that Joe Budden is strictly the reason for the interviews
them.
with Nicki, all of that, all the celebrities they had on that show.
Right.
You know?
But I'm not stating that Joe Budden is specifically the reason that they've enjoyed their success, because again, maybe I showed up because of Joe Budden talking about the pod on Everyday Struggle, but like, I largely stayed for the three of them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the point. And to that end, if it's not directly Joe Budden that I'm clicking on the podcast for to listen to specifically every week, week in and week out, Rory and Mal have a little bit more on their plate to contribute to that, to say, this wasn't happening for you before we came.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just wasn't. Yes, you were yelling at academics on Everyday Struggle, and that made you great Twitter conversation. It did not turn into a multi-million-dollar deal with Spotify until we showed up. It's not that hard. Why is it so hard to say that you did something with somebody?
Yeah. Joe Budden wouldn't be able to helm that by himself, or if he had started with Ice and Ish,
paid attention, because there would have been nothing to offset your wild, ill-informed takes.
Yeah,
there would have been nobody for you to sit there and argue with for an hour and a half, and nobody would have listened.
There was a dynamic there that couldn't be touched by literally anybody else.
It was
especially
the
at that
best
time.
podcast on any platform for at least a year.
I'd say, yeah, I was gonna say, I'd say longer for sure. Probably at least 2 years.
Ruined it because of your ego.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have thought that you matured out of that, especially for the shit that I hear you say on the pod. But clearly not.
Yeah,
clearly not. You destroyed that platform for your ego.
Yeah,
and I mean destroyed. Like the JB Productions or whatever with the two podcasts, it looked like you was taking off. And that thing done stagnated. Just.
Well, I don't even know if they have the other two podcasts that they had before.
I don't think
both of them
left.
One is not even a podcast anymore. The other one left. So
the one that's not a podcast anymore, that was
Karen Civils.
Karen Civils. Yeah.
And then
the other chicks just left the platform.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, I say all that to say that, like, you just gotta. Well, for obviously Mal and Rory know their value because they're able to separate and still do the same numbers, at least, as what you're doing now.
Yeah, they're competing with you, Joe. You told them that they didn't need, or you didn't need them, and now they have a comparable platform to you. So now, not only are you helping them, because now they're getting paid what they should have got paid under you, but now your platform has taken a step back. Did you really think it was going to be more successful with your only holdover being Parks? Come on, man.
And not to mention that they've got their money now because Mal and Rory got a deal.
If you would have just shared, you could have been on Rogan's level within the next 2 or 3 years. You'll never touch that now.
Yeah.
Too old. You're starting to get out of touch. And now people don't want to mess with you because of that spat.
And people are only largely listening to you when there's beef afoot amongst Rory and Mal.
So, yeah, man.
Ironically. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know if I could ever look at my partner here and be like, well, you didn't contribute. Well, I think both of us know that both of us have put endless, tireless work into this podcast. And I don't think we could ever discount each other's value like that.
I'll never give up the money in lieu of the glory.
That too. Well, no, I was going to say we've been friends like our whole lives too. So there's literally loyalty, but they've been friends at least for a long time.
I'll be hearing them talk about times Joe went over to Rory's house and his dad and this and that.
You know?
Boy, you would throw all of that away just because somebody won't crown you king, and that's your ultimate downfall.
Yeah.
And because they were asking to see financials and where they fit in, you told them that they could leave.
They wanted their equal cut. They wanted to see the financials.
That is just that. Like, I don't.
How can you not give them their equal cut? Why did you ever do
it with them in the first place? If that's what it was, if it was all you, only you, and they should just be happy and grateful that they're there along on your coattails, why did you even bring some people that you care about in to do that?
And at what point are you like, you're greedy? You already have other platforms that you're making money off of.
Now you have less because you're so greedy.
You have a revolt. You had a revolt show. You were doing other interviews on your channel. So like, at what point?
And now all of that shit is stopped. They sit with academics before they sit with you now, bro. That's nuts. Look at where we are. They will rather sit down with academics than you now. That's where we at, fam. That's where we are. When you was with them, Lil Baby, Gucci Mane. Who all did he do? Roddy Ricch, Rick Ross. All of them pull-ups, right?
Big Sean.
Now where you at? Who are you sitting down with, Joe? Who you sitting down with?
He did sit down with Isaiah Rashad. And I'll give him props because that was like the only public interview that he did.
You know, it was probably some nastiness going on with Isaiah Rashad in terms of who would let him come on and talk about it too. So I guess brownie points to Joe Budden for that. But
that's the only thing I can really
Isaiah
think of.
Rashad coming off some controversy is a far cry from Big Sean. It's a far cry from Lil Baby. It's a far cry from Roddy Ricch. Now Roddy's sitting down with academics.
Well, academics also has the larger platform at this point, unfortunately.
That's sad, bro. That's sad.
Yep.
Let us know what you think. What do you think about Joe Budden and the ultimate demise of the original three of Rory, Mal, and Joe? Give us your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and come back next week.
Absolutely. And make sure you check out our other videos on literally the exact same topic. I'm surprised we're here again, but we are. And make sure you subscribe because anytime we get any information about what was once one of our favorite podcasts, we'll be sure to let you know.